Hi folks, happy to have you here on the AX Semantics meetup channel. Here you will find every 14 days our latest video from our meetup where we're discussing with experts and customers about the opportunities of content automation. If you have any questions, just write it in the comments. We will answer them as soon as possible. And don't forget to subscribe our channel. Then we will see you next time here on this channel.
Warm welcome also on my behalf. This is a great survey you've come up with. I like it, and I'm really excited to see the outcome. Is that a necessary evil, product tax, or is that a conversion driver in the company? Please participate and answer the question. We have Christian of Webgears as a guest. I'm truly delighted about it, and he will present something to us. It's almost scientific, at least it's been statistically evaluated. What does text automation bring us in terms of traffic? We know that we are not allowed to tell everything, to give it all away. There are some confidential topics that cannot be shared, but we're looking forward to the insights you're going to share with us. Don't feel compelled to say more than you're allowed to say, but say whatever you feel good about saying. So I'd like to give the floor to you right away, and please share your screen, and we will be pleased to see your presentation. And please introduce yourself briefly. I also like your background. This is why I'm looking forward to your presentation, and I'm going to be quiet now. I'm going to share my screen. The topic and the title is Creating Added Value with New Text Formats. We used automated content to create texts we wouldn't be able to write physically. And what that means, I'm going to share with you. First of all, I'd like to present the Webgears Group. We're based in Berlin, and we are also based in Götzis in Austria. We have around 60 staff. And since 2008, we've been bargain hunting. Predominantly the voucher business, Zalando vouchers. You're all aware of this. There are also some other services we can provide. We've been doing that for 15 years, so we have quite a lot of expertise in the field. And our aim is to help people when it comes to saving money when shopping online. And we do that in different ways. We have our own portals. We work with partners, not only in Germany, but also in some other countries. All in all, we reach more than 10 million people a month, approximately. Here you see a selection of the partners on the left-hand side. You see the Gutscheinsammler portal for Germany. The US is a big market as well, with the coupon box, voucher box in UK with a similar design. On the right-hand side, you see a selection of the respective partners. There are some names of renown at national and international level. I have a training as an editor, research and writing. In the past, I used to do research and writing, as I said. That was my main field of work. What I did at the Westfälischen Nachrichten, I was in the local editorial department. I also worked for t-online.de in the live ticker and Sparheld.de. I also trained other editors in that context. And we were positioned internationally to some extent. And that is the first time I got in touch with this kind of texts and text automation. And now I am further developing. As I've been working with automation, I called it automated content specialist. And that's my function. And this involves some other activities, for instance, data analytics, programming to some extent, project management and administration, analyzing the progress. That's very important to be able to provide evidence that for what you do is successful. Sorry for interrupting, but I think it's great that you have that special perception. You are an automated content specialist. It's interesting because some weeks ago we had a great blog post we shared, and we dealt with the topic of content manager and what does this position look like? What does that mean? And I think you presented this and described it very well. The blog post, this goes to our own people. Can you share that? That would be great. Sorry for interrupting. No, I'm pleased. Thank you. I love what you do, Saim says. I'm also delighted that I can dedicate my full time almost to this special role. There are tasks I can take on very well, and in some instances I need some support. But I have a basic knowledge in all these fields, and at the same time I'm the interface to the experts, to other editors who can consult me, and also IT regarding data assessment or SEO success on progress management and analysis. So there are many interfaces and many things have been implemented already internally. I'm going to speak about one specific project in a moment. We asked ourselves the question, automated language generation, where do we want to use it? Are we going to replace what we have already, or do we want to have something complementary? And both things would be possible. We have a model that I presented at the outside, and this is why we have a high demand of texts in different languages. And we have 2,000 jobs that we have at one voucher portal that we have listed there. The content is quite similar, and it's quite nicely scalable if you have a certain scope, a certain dimension. At the same time, there's a lot of competition. And if you know Google's AT, if you know this principle, you already know that it's important to have unique selling propositions. The E stands for expertise, and first-hand expertise is something that's very important and that you can score with. And when it comes to complementary, we have a huge database we can use to generate texts. But when it comes to replacing, we don't have all the data yet. You could replace parts of our text, but not everything. And we said we rather want to create something new instead of replacing what we have. That was our underlying idea. And this brings us to the prerequisites for our current project. We said that we are using the static data that don't change on a daily basis, because that would be more work. We take the data that will remain unchanged for half a year or a year, so that the texts don't have to be generated newly so often. We want to do a lot ourselves in-house. We tried out certain things during a different project, and we realized that there are many things we can edit ourselves, we can direct ourselves, at least in German. And then we did some brainstorming sessions. We looked at what there is already on the website and what could be added to the existing content. We did a brainstorming session with Saim's support as well. And many different people participated in this. And the underlying idea was the following. As we've been operational since 2008, we have already collected a large database on the vouchers, the shops. And the project title became Best Time to Save. And the purpose is to identify certain patterns. That's what I'm going to speak about, or average values at shop XY. How much can you save on average? And we have reliable data and can turn them into texts. And then we needed to compare. An alignment was needed. We wanted to come up with a wish list, a data wish list, and this was aligned and collected by IT. And most of what we had written on our wish list could be implemented. I was quite happy with that. And then there's one last step. That is the conversion to text, everything that happens in AX Semantics. Data cleansing, that's, well, if you know the software and the rules and the conditions, we came up with them ourselves, as well as with the synonyms. And one important point was quality control in how far do the texts differ. And we wanted to avoid an empty data field lead to an absurd or wrong text. This is a small selection of data we used. I haven't mentioned all of them here, but I wanted to give you an idea. The weekday with the highest discounts is evaluated. In this case, it was Tuesday. And we can do that for all the different months and the number of vouchers. Let's say 20 in January, 9 in February. These are just random numbers. And then the best euro value. This is also interesting for the user. What is the best euro value at this point in time? Here it's 15 euros. Best percentage would be 10%. And then the average discount in euro and in percentage points. This is just to give you a small insight into our database. And what is the outcome? This is I wanted to show you. Here you see an example. You see that this is quite a comprehensive text, which is feasible based on this data. The title has to do with the project title, a good time to save. This is based on the last 12 months data. Here is an assessment based on seasons, the number of vouchers. I added a paragraph. If, for instance, a shop is very reliable and issues discount codes on a monthly basis, this is worthwhile mentioning, in my point of view. And then you can also have a look at the individual days of the week. Let's say we are in spring and we read that we can save well in autumn. It would be a good information to say which is the best day of the week when most of the vouchers are more likely to be issued. The second paragraph is slightly different. It refers to the average. This is just an orientation. For instance, 30 euros of discount. This is something the customer could count on. It is the second to last paragraph. And then the last point is the minimum order value and an assessment of the same, because it might be a hurdle if it's a high value. This brings me to the results. We have generated roughly 1,000 texts. Some shops needed to be excluded because they didn't issue enough vouchers during the year, because we want our results to be explanatory, to be good in terms of quality. The average was 200 words per shop. That's quite a good result, quite remarkable. And if we sum this up, this leads you to more than 200,000 words in total. And then there's quality, not only quantity. We used a tool that allows you to give your first a very good insight. So if you put two texts from the same website next to each other, you can see how many words coincide, are equal, and how unique and individual the texts are, how many words do not coincide. And we saw that more than 95% of difference there is between the texts produced. That's a good result. There are some keywords that overlap from one shop to another. I think that this is a very good result. I'm a little impatient, and it drives me to ask another question. I love your presentation. What is the name of the tool? Copyscape? Did I understand it correctly that you used to compare the results? Yes, exactly. Can you tell us the pricing model of Copyscape? There are a number of queries or inquiries that are for free on a daily per day, 10, I think. That's cool, Saim says. Or you pay one certain amount, and then you pay a few cents per inquiry. So that's just, that's not very much. But that's a very important information. I didn't know about this tool. You can feel free to write in the chat if you've heard that about that tool, but it's great that you can use Copyscape to compare the quality of the text. Please continue, keep going. I'm sorry, I can't keep myself from asking. No problem. We are almost at the end already, because we are already talking about the results. We also compared it to a second website. That's logical. I mean, if you add texts, there's the variance between the two websites improves. And there's also an effect on the visibility. We measured this with Systrix. We're talking about 1,000 shops, and this is why we could not come up with 150 or 200 comparable shops. 34 we had in this case with comparable search volume and ranking results. And we divided it into two groups, 50-50, more or less. Some were added the text that I've shown you, and the others, as they don't have many vouchers, nothing was added. And then we could see how does visibility develop in one group and how does it develop in the other group at different points in time, of course, before the texts were published and afterwards, before and after. And visibility improved anyway. So those companies with an AX text saw an improvement. But in those instances where we added text, we had an additional 5.3 percentage points of improved visibility, which is significant. And this means, this shows that this is one of a couple of factors that have a positive impact on our visibility. And that was very good for the project to see this success. And it's also an incentive to keep going. Saim, that's it on my part already. If there are any questions, please. Yes. Improved visibility. May I ask, if you can't answer it, that's no problem. Because we are sharing this on YouTube, we can't discuss everything. But has the traffic also improved in addition to visibility? Or has this just been a statistic result that didn't lead to more traffic? So does that really bring customers or interested parties to the website? I can't really tell you. No problem. In any event, it's an interesting analysis, and the improved visibility, usually that also reflects traffic. I mean, we're talking about 40% more visibility as compared to the shops without the AX texts. That is the shop pages. That's really remarkable. And the fact that you've compared 34 shops, it's quite a considerable number. It's not that you compared it to 1 or 2, but it was a comprehensive analysis you've carried out. Are there any questions by the audience? To Christian, please ask the question in the chat. Christian has already sent a question. How often are the generated texts updated by AX? That's one question. Let's start with that one. What's the plan? How often do you want to update them? The minimum is once per year. But it's always a work in progress. We have already fine-tuned the text. Again, we have a second version that we established with fresh data and published them. That's the cool thing about it. Once you've started it, the workload is only marginal, the additional workload. And updating data is quite well feasible. You can generate another 1,000 texts. Our license model supports that. We don't invoice per generated text, but only for the data sets. You could produce new text 5 times a day. That wouldn't be that good for Google if you do too much, but it's great. And it's a process that, if I've understood it correctly, that is constantly optimized. Do you know how many users do see this content? How far down do they scroll? And the second question is, do you already use the AX metrics? I mean, that would be very useful for that. No, that's another point. That's on our to-do list that we haven't done yet. Hotjar would be a tool you could use to have a look at the user movement on a website. One step to take is to place it higher on the website and to also equip it with nice graphs and graphics so that the text is illustrated by a visual component. We haven't done that yet. We wanted to have the texts online first, because that's the first step we wanted to take. Stefan is asking, Has the conversion improved? Do more people use the vouchers? I think this is heading into the same direction as the traffic. Other conversion analyses about the development on the website? Here again, I haven't assessed that. It would need to be found elsewhere. It can't be found on the same website. I understand. It's not a. There is no direct conversion element on the website. It's rather a content depiction. If we wanted to place it more towards the top of the page, it would be interesting to see. And if this improved the conversion additionally, that would be even better. But what we wanted to do is to have texts for different and collect text for different websites and make them more distinguishable. Yes, we want. I understand differentiation of the texts, 95%, and improve the visibility. That's understood. So that was the project focus. Tobias is also asking a question. Probably need to answer that myself. How many data attributes do you need for a text of roughly 500 words? Christian, you can support me, but I'd say it's 10 to 12 words in a German sentence. There is a rule of thumb that's 1.5 per sentence. So if you have 500 words, you'd need 50 sentences, more or less, 40 to 50 sentences you'd need for it to be effective. This means 40 to 60 data points. It doesn't necessarily need to be an attribute in the database. Half an hour ago, I'm at the Baltic Sea. I'm moderating this from my camper van. I gave a presentation where we used a good dictionary to create product text in a fashion environment. It's a Marco Polo shirt. Marco Polo was founded this and at that point in time. This was the founder. This is their working priorities. And there is a click and collect in the shop. There's a possibility to pay. And there are some other facts that we've included in the text as hard facts. And the third aspect was that loving the Baltic Sea, those who love the Baltic Sea, Pier 14, if you know that at the North Face jacket, we say that you can discover the Heringsdorf beach very well without being subjected to bad weather. So we have attribute data and a manual table storing information. Apple, where is Apple based? And I could use it for the iPhone, that the operating system is iOS in the case of Apple, that the Apple brand is a company that was founded by Steve Jobs in that and that year. And I can use this information to fill the text so that the texts are more beautiful if I add attributes to the facts. If you want to know more, look at the Pier 14 recording. Annika was here 3 times. We accompanied her during the whole project, and we had a 3-session meetup and reported about the project. And Annika also spoke about their progress. There's another question right away. How complicated was it to collect and prepare the data you used to generate the text? Christian, you need to answer that. How complicated was it to collect the data? How did you do that? Excel file, a database? I didn't do that myself. I received support by our IT colleagues. But as I know, there were different databases and sets of data that existed already that just needed to be merged to become one data set. That was quite easily feasible in a week or 2, I'd say.
Okay, cool.
Great, cool. Are there any other questions from the audience? Heike, come back. Well, I'd like to know, what about you? What about the texts? Is there a lot of support for your work and awareness that time needs to invest in this? Or is that also a struggle for resources? Christian, I'd say both. Both, to be honest. But that's okay.
Ja, immerhin darfst du dich ja fast zu 100% das Thema Text.
At least you can dedicate your time to text automation, almost 100% of your time. Yes, that's true. And we also want to roll it out in other languages, English at least. So what's coming? Yes, that's great. You want to do it in English? So this seems to be a paradise for copywriters. I mean, you can dedicate 100% of your time almost to that, and you can tackle future projects or future-oriented projects. What about the others? Can you share the result of the survey? Yes. It's been positive for the text. 38% are saying that it's perceived, copywriting and product texts are perceived as something positive, that there's an advantage. 44% say, well, it's okay. Like you were saying, Christian, sometimes yes, sometimes no. And 13% only say it's really a fight for resources, and 6% don't have an idea. That's great. It's rather positive. Positive for the text, so to speak. I'd like to say one thing, Heike. We are in a competition. We want to speak about the e-commerce week with Annika, and we need some support. We need a voting by our audience. We would love if you clicked on us. We are going to share a link on the chat. Could you please vote for Annika and me to be given the opportunity to speak there? It's the video we have shown a moment ago. And we also linked, no, we sent you the link on the chat. The only thing that's left for me to say is, Heike, what will we do during the next meetup? Well, 50 million texts is what we can expect. 50 million texts per month? Per month we have to add. We'll have a customer here. They produce 48 million Kindle. They produce 48 million texts with us, product descriptions, channels, platforms. If you want, please join in. It will be exciting. Christian, I'd like to invite you again once you have done more statistics and once you've rolled out the English language. I'd be pleased if you could share a statistically driven analysis with us. But for now, thank you very much for your cool presentation. I really enjoyed it. Also to see your personal development to become a automated content specialist. And I'd like to stay healthy to all the others and vote for us. I'd like to add, and I'll be pleased if in 2 weeks we'll see each other again. And thanks to the team in background, thanks to the translators for always supporting us. Simultando, thanks for their great service in English. It's a pleasure. And Christian, thank you again, and see each other soon. Now I've been in Eriksdorf at the Baltic Sea. Thank you. Bye-bye.